Hey everybody, and welcome to yet another episode of Let's Talk Toys, where we not only unbox toys, we also talk about them. So I'm Nikki De Guzman, news anchor from the Philippines, but geeky all-around toy collector at heart. And for today, we're unboxing Iron Studios' biggest gift. We've got a 1/4 scale Knightmare Batman from the Snyderverse. This is for all my fellow heartbroken Snyderverse fans out there. Okay, I know why all this fuss about a now defunct Snyderverse. Well, I agree that DC does need some sort of reboot. I mean, it's the only thing that could save it at this point. They did it in the comics, New 52, Rebirth, and all that. And while I am still excited about the Gunn universe, there's always going to be that part of me that would have really wanted to see how Snyderverse would have played out if it had been given the 5-movie release it was initially planned to be. That would span more than 10 years in the making and a lot of spin-offs in between. If only all that mess with Warner Brothers did happen, and the whole messy Joss Whedon affair.
Superman! Can we ask you some questions? It's for our podcast.
Well, in that case,
How many people that you saved have you saved? Wait, never mind.
That movie did not know what it wanted to be. And, Snyder's personal problems. To go on and on about where the Snyderverse went wrong, where it could have possibly been one of the best comic book movies we would ever have, but we'll never know now, huh? For those unfamiliar, the Nightmare sequence is actually a pretty short sequence. We first get a glimpse of it in BVS, and then we get a longer one in the Snyder Cut version of Justice League. This scene actually laid out the groundwork for Snyder's plan for the DCEU, and then Warner Brothers conveniently omitted that part. Moving on to the figure itself, let's take a look at the box first. I removed the figure inside because I won't be able to put it atop the table. So, this dude right here. So this is what you see in the front. It says they're Iron Studios Knightmare Batman. And then this is pretty much the entire figure we're getting. But you gotta wonder, right? I mean, how many years has it been since the Snyder Cut since we last saw this freaking costume? And yet, every other toy brand out there has made their version of this Nightmare sequence Batman, considering that it was only a few minutes of the film. And then, to this day, we get new releases like this. I think McFarlane is also set to release their own version in a few months. So it's still well alive, and that speaks volumes about the Nightmare sequence and its storytelling. Okay, so opening up the box, I already removed these. I see only 2 big parts here. This is, well, first is the Batman figure itself. And he's already put together. And then we see the base. And then we see his logo there. And then these probably details to the base. So, taking a closer look at the figure. So you see here a very worn out tire. Very nicely sculpted. These are supposed to be sand. They're very, very rough. We see rocks. We see some sort of metal bar. Very nicely painted. Let's also put this here already. And where that goes. I think what makes this Batman iconic, more than just the storyline that comes with the Nightmare Batman, is how he freaking looks. Batman has goggles. Batman is in a trench coat. And he wears a scarf. Then we see him, what are these? Wearing military cargo pants and these makeshift gauntlets. A nice texture to the scarf though, and look at that stitching. And you see buttons, and you see bullet marks on his armor. Still has his trusty utility belt. I really had to turn the figure over because I couldn't find where to put these two. One is supposed to be right beside this red steel bar. This one has a bulkier peg, and this one has a thinner peg. He goes there. Ta-da! So, assembly was a breeze, as you can see. There are mostly 2 pieces to it. That's Batman himself and the base. There are some parts to it that are a little rough, the sandy parts. So, you gotta be a little more careful when you're putting the 2 pieces together because you might scratch yourself. which I did a little. So we also have the small parts there in this logo, of course, inspired by Frank Miller's Dark Knight Returns. It's a little thicker than most Bat logos. Okay, so this part of the video you could totally skip if you're just here for the figure. Be gracious with me as I do a speed run of Zack Snyder's plan for the DCEU. So piecing together all the interviews, bits and pieces of Snyder's comments on the DCEU and his plan. We start with BVS because it was where we first saw the Knightmare sequence, right? So, aftermath of Man of Steel, we see Batman, Bruce, contemplating about the destruction brought about by the Kryptonians. Bruce realizes he needs to destroy this alien before, the threat of him being bad becomes real. Pair goes head to head. The name Martha saves them.
Save Martha! Why did you say that name?
It's his mother's name.
Doomsday kills Superman.
Yes, very sad. Anyway.
But then we go to Justice League and flashback to a millennia ago. We see Darkseid and his forces trying to take Earth, right? And fail. After learning of the death of the Kryptonian, the protector of Earth, he sends his general, his uncle really, Steppenwolf, to try to retake Earth. So Bruce forms the Justice League, they resurrect Superman, they win. Diana cuts off the head of Steppenwolf, and then they get a glimpse of Darkseid and his minions. We see the Sun, we see Granny Goodness. Can you imagine if we also saw the Furies and Big Barda? Anyway, and then we see a long stare down scene. And then at the epilogue, we see Bruce talking to who's supposed to be Martian Manhunter, who didn't really do much. Thanks a lot, dude. And for us viewers, it ends there. We don't get to see what comes next. We're supposed to meet a Green Lantern, most probably Earth's protector. I hear we were supposed to get John Stewart. But anyway, so they meet eventually the entire Green Lantern Corps. So the Justice League and the Green Lantern stalk, and meanwhile Lois gets preggers. That's also important. And the League and the Lanterns agree to meet at this planet called New Genesis. Jack Kirby's fourth world from the comics. Basically, it's a planet ruled by the new gods and Highfather. It's this utopia. Anyway, they talk there and they agree to storm Apocalypse, which is the counterpart of New Genesis. It's Darkseid's planet. It's called Apocalypse for a reason. League eventually gets there, either through ship or boom tubes or the mother box, and then they fail, and then they get stuck there. And then Superman gets brainwashed and is now one of Darkseid's minions. Darkseid manages to control Superman, extract the codex from him, which basically has a genetic code of the entire Kryptonian race. So he uses that information and creates the anti-life equation. I know it sounds corny, but I swear to you, it's cool. It basically removes all hope and free will from sentient beings. It's the perfect way to conquer any planet. So now that he has the anti-life equation and the heroes are stuck there on Apocalypse with Superman brainwashed, Darkseid then goes to Earth, decimates all life forms. The remaining people became parademons, and Lois Lane and her baby died. Back on Apocalypse, the heroes eventually find a way. So they make it back to Earth and they see what has become of it after Darkseid's invasion, and Superman sees that Lois and his baby have died. But there's still light at the end of the tunnel, so Darkseid is eventually defeated by the heroes. But then, I spoke too soon, Superman outright kills the dude and takes over as a new baddie. He proves to be a worse one at that. If you played the Injustice games, and even better, read the freaking comic book, it's so underrated. This is pretty much regime Superman there. Homelander does not stand a chance. Superman has taken a hold of Darkseid's army, and the remaining humans have started worshipping him. Very, very much like the Injustice Gods Among Us comics. As Snyder also puts it, he's always viewed the superheroes in his universe as gods among us humans. Batman was fighting the soldiers. They were bearing Superman's insignia here. He has become a totalitarian ruler, and this is what happens when Superman fully embraces his dark side. Lois Lane and their child, they were the anchor of him being human.
She was my world, and you took her from me.
So, going the route that the Injustice comic book took, Batman also creates a small rebellion of some sort here. In the comic books, it was the insurgency. Maybe in the film, that also includes even the villains. Lex Luthor forms this group of super villains. We see Deathstroke, Joe Manganiello, Sayang. And then we see Joker knowing where the last kryptonite pieces are. That's why we get the scene of Batman and him in this intense conversation talking about what happened to Jason Todd.
And I'm happy to discuss with you in any way like why you sent a boy wonder.
To do a man's job. And make no mistake, I will fucking kill you. And I do it slow.
You see there that there's just so much history between the two, and that Batman harbors so much hatred for Joker and even more hatred for himself because he can't bring himself to kill him. Anyway, that's a conversation for a different vid. So, Batman realizing that there's no saving the world now from an evil Superman, he and Cyborg and Flash create this sort of cosmic treadmill in an effort to bring Flash back in time to warn the League against taking the fight to Apocalypse, because that's where they get stuck and Darkseid gets the opportunity to go to Earth and enslave it. And then there is also the scene where Flash gets there a tad too early.
It's Lois! It's Lois Lane! She's the key!
Basically telling Batman to keep Lois alive so that they get to keep a sane and good Clark Kent Superman on their side. So that scene we actually got to see in BVS. What we don't get to see is Flash going back in time right at the moment he was supposed to and successfully telling the League not to take the fight to Darkseid on the planet Apocalypse. And this, finally wipes out the nightmare future that could have been. It has now been reduced to a dream. So now Batman needs to reformulate the plan. Talks to the elites, talks to the Lanterns, talks to the New Gods, talks to all the other tier B superheroes out there that they have to wait for Darkseid to invade Earth and find him on our turf. And also aware now that pregnant Lois is the key, he hides her in his Batcave for added security. So Bruce, being the genius that he is, comes up with this weapon to actually kill Darkseid. Just read Grant Morrison's Final Crisis. So when Darkseid and his forces finally do come to Earth, the heroes are able to push him back. But in true movie fashion, right in the middle of the climax battle scene, the pregnant lady, Lois in this case, goes into labor and gives birth in the Batcave. Now, Darkseid just really wants the Codex, and realizing he can't take that from Superman anymore because he's not really winning the fight, he goes into the Batcave and tries to get Clark's baby. But right before he gets to do that, Batman saves the day, fires the weapon at Darkseid, kills Darkseid, but also right before he dies, he gets to Omega Beam Batman into oblivion. So yeah, Batman dies. But if you follow the aftermath of the Final Crisis storyline in the comic books, Batman really doesn't die. He just gets teleported to all sorts of timelines, weird ones at that, and eventually finds his way back. But I think in the movie, he was supposed to die. It would have been some sort of tribute to him, with Clark naming his child Jonathan Bruce Kent. Fitting. See, there were so many comic book elements to that story of Snyder, and I'm pretty sure we would have gotten even more had they made it to the big screen. The battle with Darkseid wasn't supposed to be just the Justice League against him. It was supposed to be the entire freaking DC universe defending Earth against him. Who knows the amount of cameos we would have seen, right? I still mourn what could have been for the Snyderverse. The Gun universe will be more appealing. We did want a more light-hearted take on DC. And after everything, I just still believe that Black Adam changing the hierarchy of power in the DCEU could have saved it.
What? There's no one on this planet that can stop me.
Okay, so to those who made it to the end of the video, thank you. Even those who skipped the Snyderverse part, I'm still very happy that I got to tell the story to at least those of you who were interested. Okay, so that ends our video. I'm very happy to be the recipient of yet another awesome gift from Iron Studios, and another Batman at that. My biggest one yet, I think. Don't forget to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and click on the notification bell if you want to be updated for the very rare times that I do get to do these videos. I mean, sorry, life and work happen. See you in the next video where we, as usual, talk toys.